necessary to the president as he speaks to us. He's wearing many hats today. Of course, we can say that he's representing the vice president. He's representing the representative of the vice president. He's representing himself, and of course, the farmers who want to see improvement in the crops that they grow. Let's celebrate him one more time as he comes forward.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm seek your permission to proceed without wasting much time. We are running like 2 hours late. So if I begin to mention all the dignitaries here, I will add to the time slot given to me. So, however, on behalf of the Office of the Vice President of Nigeria, and all the esteemed guests and representatives and delegates of different key gatekeepers in the cocoa ecosystem, and ladies and gentlemen from the press, I welcome you all. Good morning. And I thank you for joining this important, pivotal Roundtable, Nigeria EU Cocoa Roundtable, where we'll be discussing about charting a new path to facilitate our course towards EUDR compliance. It's an honor to engage all of you, and I must sincerely thank all of you to who honored our invitation. This was postponed, and still, I know some of you already had their tickets booked. You still came around again from far and wide, Lagos, cross river, all over the country. I sincerely appreciate your commitment towards this transformative dialogue. As you all may know, cocoa is the cornerstone of Nigeria economic diversification agenda, especially under the renewed hope agenda of Mr. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. It stands as a strategic non-oil export that drives our transition from petroleum dependency. According to the National Bureau of Statistics, cocoa exports in Nigeria experienced a 606% increase in the last quarter of 2024. Nigeria export of cocoa rose from 171 billion naira in the last quarter of 2023 to 1.2 trillion in the last quarter of 2020. This remarkable growth reflects not only the demand, but the resilience and potential of Nigeria's agricultural sector, especially the cocoa sector. Cocoa is no longer a commodity. It's a strategic lever in our economic transformation and diversification push. This positions cocoa as a vital contributor, accounting for roughly 29% of all our agricultural exports and 5.6% or 6% of our non-oil exports. The government of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu (GCFR) remains committed to agricultural sustainability, value addition, and global trade standards compliance. Under the president's renewed hope agenda, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu is creating an enabling environment that catalyzes public-private sector, now public-private philanthropy partnership, no longer triple P, 4 Ps. Empowers our community, and that's why the community engagement specialists, advisors are here. Morimo Jodo is actually being held the senior special assistant to the president of community engagement for Southwest, where most of our cocoa are grown. She's actually engaged in an event. Once she's through, she will come here to also lay her support to carry through the message that the outcome of this dialogue, this roundtable, so that every nook and cranny, every village, every farming community in the Southwest will understand the challenges and the opportunities that this presents, and the backing of the federal government of Nigeria at the center of government, the presidency, the state house. So it's at the core of our agenda to drive greener and a more prosperous Nigeria. The heart of today's discussion is the EUDR, which prohibits the import of cocoa and other commodities linked to deforestation after it kicking from next year, January, so by the end of this year. So it requires traceability, due diligence, and proof of deforestation-free supply chain, reinforcing environmental stewardship. That's why we brought in the agency with the constitutional, with the requisite statutory mandate as the custodian of satellite imageries, all georeference data in the country. EU, the charge the highest level of the EU representation in Nigeria and ECOWAS is here. The charge the person in charge of the embassy. We have NASA here. We have the Milky Way, the commercial arm. So the legal framework for compliance on the deforestation, this thing, we have them. After this thing, we'll expand the engagement framework to include them so that everything you will need for us to meet this requirement, this regulation, that will be done. It requires traceability, due diligence, and proof of deforestation-free supply chain, reinforcing our commitment for environmental stewardship. The EUDR aligns with Nigeria's green economy agenda, advancing our goals to combat climate change, preserve biodiversity, and build resilient agricultural systems that are adaptable to climate change and enhances environmental performance improvement of our farming systems. It also drives innovation in traceability technologies such as blockchain and satellite mapping. Like I stated earlier, that's why, in fact, to know how important this is to the federal government of Nigeria, the DG of NASDA had another engagement, but he had to cancel it. He had been here so that the EU will see the commitment of Nigeria, that is not just the private sector alone driving it. You have that commitment from the federal government, from the entity with the statutory power, the statutory mandate to interface, to document and to transmit our compliance in a legal way, standing as a legal framework with that, in collaboration with the National Task Force on EUDR. You also see all of them are here. While enabling stronger farmer support program that promotes sustainable practices and higher yields without encroaching in forests. That is why also we have the community engagement, assistance, senior special assistance to the president within the cocoa growing regions, Southeast, South, and Southwest. South have been holding her. She also has another very pressing engagement. Very soon she will leave. But be rest assured, the EU delegation here, that the message beyond the farmers, at the community level, at the household level, at the religious, Nigeria is a religious society, that this information will crystallize down to everybody that is one way or the other connected to the cocoa ecosystem in Nigeria, from the local ward chairman, the local government people, the traditional rulers, the pastors in the farming communities, who will help to, beyond the engagement from government and farmers, help to also further strengthen, reinforce the importance of this compliance to this regulation to the farmers, because at the end of the day, the farmers are the people that will make or mar our compliance to the regulations. Cocoa production in Nigeria supports over 300,000 smallholder farmers, which produces approximately 80% Nigeria's output and contributes roughly to 6%, which contributes roughly to 6% of the global supply. In the 2023-2024 season, Africa produced 3.151 million metric tons of cocoa, with Nigeria accounting for around 320,000 tons. And we are aiming to increase production to beyond 500,000 tons in the 2025 farming season. That is why the president, this gathering is supposed to be at the ministerial level, but the president has elevated the importance, just like the MC had stated, all crops of importance that fits into the core, the heart of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's economic diversification agenda. It has mandated that we elevate the discourse at the highest level of government, which in Nigeria is the presidency. So how do we intend to increase production to beyond 500,000 tons in this 2025? Is through targeted intervention, and that is why during the panel section we will discuss all the interventions, where the federal government has to plug in, where the farmers has to plug in, where the civil society organization has to plug in, where the EU has to come in. So these figures are not only underscores the scale of opportunity, but also the urgency to explore and invest in cocoa production, compliant EUDR compliant cocoa production in Nigeria, so that more and more of our farmers will be uplifted will improve our reputation and access to market within the EU market, and also maintain our position and increase it. However, we must also confront the realities. While progress has been made, more needs to be done to establish effective compliance mechanism. This underscores the importance of extensive engagements, which had been from time to time the National Task Force, the working group, they have been meeting with EU, but to further enhance and further strengthen it, to let EU know that we are serious as a nation to meet up this regulation. We are also expanding the extensiveness of the engagement to this multi-stakeholder, multi-ministerial. We have people from agri, trade and investment, environment, science and technology, communications, all the entities that will play one role or the other in the official documentation and legal compliance of Nigeria are all represented here. Financing constraints is a major challenge, and that is where the EU, as our partner, will have to see how they will support the NTF and all the entities, and also establishing a framework of bringing all the stakeholders and key gatekeepers within this compliance ecosystem, that they work together, transmit and work in synergy to transmit and meet up to all the requirements you want from us and their guidance. So that is an area we expect that the EU should look into and begin to work with the NTF and all the entities in forming that war room. We can call it EUDR compliance war room. That EU will also be part of it, so that at the end of the day, by the year, all the requirements for the legal compliance will be met in collaboration and in partnership, in alliance with the EU delegation to Nigeria and all the people involved within the sector in EU. Institutional coordination is vital to achieve our objectives. We have begun formal engagement with the Raw Material Research Institute. As you all may know, the new law on processing, they are parts of the bits and pieces to get these things working together. Already the NASDAQ, they are here. And to strengthen research and innovation across cocoa value chain, we are working with the Raw Material Research Institute, with the National Biotechnology Development Agency, with the Cocoa Research Institute, which is a core member of the NT. The DG, the Executive Director, is Dr. Patrick. Work is also underway to designate government agencies to manage cocoa sector data. That is what we are going to work out at the end of this with the NTF, the National Data Protection Bureau, which and also the NASDAQ, and all the people to work together to bring the data from different private sector aggregator exporters that have different data warehouse in different points, for all of them to be together, and that's in collaboration and partnership with EU and under the guidance of the NASDAQ and Milky Way and the Nigerian Data Protection Agency, Ministry of Digital Economy Information. And so all of us will work together to make sure that we are not working at variance with what EU is expecting from us. That is the necessity for, together with the NTF, being empowered, being sponsored, being enabled, enhancing partnership to get to the expected outcome and expected compliance mechanisms. In the coming weeks, we will work towards convening interagency consultation with the Nigerian Customs Service, with the Federal Inland Revenue Service, with the Federal Ministry of Innovation, Science and Technology, and NASDAQ to mobilize, support, and align interventions across government, private sector, philanthropy, and EU. EUDR compliance presents transformative opportunity for Nigeria's cocoa industry, not only for meeting up the compliance, but for enhancing productivity of our cocoa, because we believe if we can adhere to the lines, to the standards of the EUDR, it will not only translate to the compliance, it will translate to increased production of our cocoa sector. And it will also translate to unlocking further business capital to support interventions of government, farmers, and private sector that will help to increase productivity and also improve the livelihood of the average smallholder cocoa farmers that are spread across the length and breadth of this great nation. By prioritizing local processing, we can create jobs retain more value within our borders, and shift from raw export to high-value products such as chocolate, beverage, and cocoa butter, and also enhance productivity and livelihood of our farmers, like I had stated earlier. At the end of the day, the farmers are the real stakeholders here, the smallholder farmers, not the EUDR, not the exporters, not EU. The real beneficiaries, the real core stakeholders are the smallholder farmers, are the villages, are the wards, are the local governments. Revitalizing aging plantations could deliver up to 50% higher yields, reducing pressure on forests and equip farmers with climate-smart practices. Like I said, they are the core. If we can get this, we need to increase the productivity of the already existing cocoa so that the demand, the pressure on the farmer to expand, to clear forests, to have more cocoa will be reduced. These advancements also position Nigeria to tap into climate finance and carbon credit schemes, potentially attracting significant international funding for eco-friendly initiatives while engaging our youth in agribusiness and as part of an inclusive growth strategy of Mr. President. To fully realize the vision, we're exploring options for effective partnerships to deploy digital compliance tools, farmer mapping system, traceability infrastructure that empowers smallholder farmers. We also welcome greater participation from private investors in the development of cocoa processing zones where innovations and opportunities will combine to build sustainable, competitive supply chain that are compliant to every point within the EUDR regulation. And that is where the EU delegates to Nigeria has a role to play, to work together with us to design that system, to partner with us effectively, not at a high level, but at a grassroots, at the basement of this policy framework to be so that at the end of the day, as our very good partners in progress, we all work to deliver both compliance to EUDR, but also livelihood enhancement for our smallholder cocoa farmer that are spread across the length and breadth of Nigeria. In closing, Nigeria stands ready and resolute. With our rich heritage in cocoa, producing an average of nearly 320,000 tons annually over the past decade, and a clear policy roadmap being championed, being supported at the highest level of governance by Mr. President himself, we are poised to lead in sustainable cocoa production and agribusiness. Let's forge a new era of strategic partnership where Nigeria cocoa becomes a global symbol of sustainability, becomes a global symbol of strict compliance to the EUDR regulation, while also uplifting the hundreds of thousands of smallholder farmers from where they are, giving them a quantum leap in their socioeconomic status, their income earning by at least more than 50% as a result of government involvement in meeting up this dual purpose. To me, I call it dual purpose regulation, compliance, and also enhancing the productivity of our farmers. Let's work together. Let's form a mutually beneficial partnership. Let EU unlock support, technical, financial, institutional, to help us to meet up these regulations. Let's form that strategic partnership where Nigeria cocoa becomes symbol of sustainability, innovation, and shared prosperity, and shared commitment, and shared diplomatic relation. Together, we can build a deforestation-free future that uplifts farmers, protects our forests, strengthens trade ties between Nigeria and EU, and enhances the socioeconomic livelihood of all the key gatekeepers within the cocoa ecosystem in Nigeria. Thank you all for coming, and thank you for listening.
Can make that applause, Charles.